enjoy your board as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm good. How are you, Gary? Okay, does everyone know if we're live or not?
I think we're close.
I was told yes,
Okay, good.
or that's what I thought I heard.
I think you said whenever you're ready, give
Okay.
them about 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's
or
go ahead
20
and get this
seconds.
discussion started off with the City of Hutchinson, Kansas City manager recruitment efforts. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to you, Gary.
Okay, well, council members, as you know, Burchow Kraus, Baker Tilly was hired for the recruitment of the new city manager. And our contact in the recruitment person on this particular search is Art Davis, who I think you just recently met. Art is around the Kansas City area, does a lot of work in Kansas, Missouri, and surrounding states. And so I think he has a good network. Today, he and I met with the groups that you appointed, and I think he's going to report on that tonight. I'll let him give you a little bit of idea about his background and some of the things that you can expect going through this search process.
Great, thank you, Gary. Art Davis, very familiar with Kansas, but I've been a city manager in Lee Summit, Missouri for about 6 years, and before that I was an assistant city administrator in Lenexa, Kansas for about 6 years. Before that I worked for the city of Dallas for several years and have a master's in public administration from KU, and really very active with the Kansas Association of City Managers and League of Kansas Municipalities, as well as the Missouri side, because of my work on the Missouri side as a city manager. After I left city management in '99, I worked for a nonprofit for about 6 years, and then started my own consulting business of doing executive recruitment, strategic goal setting, development services, just a whole host of different services. And after about 10 years of doing that, I was recruited to become part of the firm I'm currently with. And I've been with now Baker Tilly, Burchow Kraus for about a little over 7 years. And and really appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. I've conducted some recent city manager searches in Kansas, just finished up with Overland Park, and have done a number of other searches in Kansas and Missouri and nationwide. Had a great set of meetings today with your stakeholder groups, and we had groups that included your leadership team, the department directors, diversity leaders, a group with nonprofit leaders, and we had business leaders, and had a kind of broad-ranging discussion of some of the things that they thought were important in a next city manager. They completely understand it's your decision to make as the governing body. All of them acknowledge that. And they expressed, each one of the groups expressed appreciation for the opportunity to provide input on this. The thought being that I would share with you some of their impressions of what is important, if you want to hear them first, or maybe you don't want to be predisposed and want to talk about it first on your own. I'm open to doing it either way, but they just really appreciated the opportunity for that ability to provide some input, and I thought we had good discussions today. And I think everybody's excited about the opportunity to get some leadership on board, and especially your city leadership team expressed a desire to continue to develop a high-performance team and focused on services to the public, and they seemed extremely enthusiastic about kind of going to work and with the team, and had lots of great ideas as well. Just briefly, I did want to go over a little bit the schedule that's in front of you. Today, obviously, is the kickoff discussions. Over the next couple of weeks, we would begin to develop a profile and marketing brochure for the next city manager, and then we would begin just tentatively plan for Thursday, August 18th to kick it off. We have a first review date of September 27th. I know a lot of HR people want to, no offense, Tom, but they want to really push, 30-day, let's get this ad placed and get these applicants. Well, it's a new environment as far as recruiting right now, and very limited supply. It's very challenging to get talented, qualified applicants, and you want to find those applicants that are happily employed in another
Yes.
position, not necessarily that are always out looking for work. And so that requires a lot of outreach directly, either through LinkedIn or through making contact with managers or deputy city managers or assistant managers. And we have lists and contacts throughout the country, but primarily, as I mentioned to some of your groups today, we think it's good to focus in a particular region of a client, and meaning the state of Kansas and all the surrounding states. We would tend to put a lot of focus in that. It doesn't mean there aren't exceptions where you've got potential candidates that have ties to Kansas. They may have siblings or aging parents or people that their kids have moved here or close by, and they want to move to this part of the country. So there's always exceptions, but sometimes it's a different culture when you're bringing somebody that's only used to the West Coast or only used to the East Coast to come and work in this Midwest environment. And it would be the same thing going to the East Coast, et cetera. So we tend to focus, always exceptions, but we tend to focus in a region and within the state of Kansas as well. And so we would start that search and initiate contact and attempt to bring forth as many highly qualified candidates as possible, but also a diverse set of candidates. And one of the tenets, one of our values as an organization is focused on having a diverse semifinalist group for you to review. And then it's up to you to narrow it down to the qualified candidates to review, that you then are in a position to narrow it down to folks that you believe to be the best fit and designate to bring in for an interview. And we've got some other tools and that was in the proposal and everything that we had shared, that we've got what we call a profile development, behavioral assessment test that it's like a personality test, but it's focused on behavioral traits and leadership traits. And we would have that conducted on the finalists so you get a better feel for candidates. We do some strong vetting through a nexus search and as well as social media and internet search for anything and everything that's been on the internet, so that you have a good feel for what's out there. And we also require them to fill out forms that tell us about what's out there on them, so that they're volunteering first and with integrity, what controversies or what issues have you been involved in that you may have media exposure on, either negative or positive. And if things come up through that process, then, and they haven't let us know if it's something potentially adverse, then that's a red flag that we're going to have concerns with. And we do the standard reference checks and background checks, civil, criminal, driving record, sexual predator list, all of those kinds of things, so that when you interview these candidates, we're going to have the best possible knowledge of their background, and if there's anything that we need to explore before they actually come and interview you. We try to also provide a comprehensive review both through the marketing recruitment brochure, as well as other links to your budget process and any other issues that are currently going on, so that they know as much as possible about your community. Now, we try to put the best foot forward so that it's, we highlight and show candidates that what a great opportunity this is for their family and for them professionally. But we also, if there's issues with debt or issues with aging infrastructure, that they're at least aware of what those challenges are, and so that there's good knowledge by both parties coming into this potential relationship. And so the outline here, and I've kind of described, we also do before you see the group of semifinalists, we're going to also conduct video interviews of, we call it Higher View, and they actually get a link, they click on the link, and there's a set of 3 or 4 or 5 questions that come up. And they're not trick questions, but they're based on, they're related to the job itself. And they get 30 seconds to review the question, and then they get 3 minutes to respond. There's no do-overs. They don't get to see the question before they see it. And there's like a doomsday clock counting backwards from 3 minutes down to 0. So it's not a fun thing to go through. Candidates don't particularly care for it. Our clients love it, because you get to see, is there confidence? Is there clarity of thought? Is there a good leadership presence that they're able to have some command presence in responding to a question that they should be able to answer clearly and not fumbling around. You don't want somebody that you have a crisis or a disaster or something of major consequence, and the national reporters are on scene with microphones, and if the mayor wants to take those, then that's fine, but it's city manager, police chief, fire chief, whatever the issue is, you want somebody that you've got confidence in, that has experience and the ability to respond with clarity and knowledge. And so that's where I think that video exercise is of assistance in helping you to kind of evaluate the backgrounds. It's just one tool of going through that process to narrow down candidates for you guys to decide. So what we were talking about is first review of candidates, that we would start asking candidates for more information on September 27th, which would be about a month and 2 weeks from the kickoff date. The good thing about September 27th is it's a week after the ICMA conference. So I would have the ability, when we go to the ICMA and have a booth, to talk to a number of different candidates and actually have brochures with us and market the timing of this overlaps with the conference, and it's going to be a great opportunity to talk to a lot of potential prospects. And we see a lot of Kansas and Missouri and Nebraska and Oklahoma people there, but there will be people from everywhere, Iowa, et cetera. And so it's just a good opportunity to market the community and the opportunity. And so we would do some additional screening, ask questions, get them to respond in writing, and then send to you on October 6th the semifinalist report in final form. That is a 3-ring binder, confidential report that for you to review, that has the full backgrounds, and then we'd also send you the links to review those videos I referred to. And then on Tuesday, at some point, if you're available, this is just a ballpark date. If you're available, if we need to schedule a different night, that is fine also. We would meet in closed session on, I've got down Tuesday, October 11th, but if for some reason that doesn't work for you all, we can find another date that does. And it's just a date that's open on my calendar and I'm not traveling. So I would be able to come down here and meet with you personally. So then, once you've decided a group to narrow down for interviews, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 candidates, or maybe you decide you want to think about it for 3 or 4 days and then meet again to narrow down those candidates. But you would let me know, and we would kind of kickstart all the background checks and all the next steps and begin to identify dates for interviews that would work for both all of you as well as the candidates. And just for scheduling purposes and to give you an idea, we've got you would receive a finalist report on November 2nd, and then a week before, 5 days before or 6 or 7 days before actual on-site interviews. So it gives you a week to review some of the additional materials. And then I would come down and we would help develop interview questions, assessment. We have some suggested assessment forms, but we can tweak them. They're just suggestions, and then you all can take those and tweak them any way you like and add questions, whatever you want to do. And then we would help to make sure that all of the working with your staff to coordinate the meeting space and making sure everything's reserved, and we're able to make reservations if they're coming from far away, and if not, then that wouldn't be needed. But and get the interviews organized, and then so probably within a week after the interviews, at such point as you decide on narrowing down the candidates to either 1 or 2, and I would assist if you wanted me to, or the mayor or someone could initiate the steps of talking with your number 1 candidate. And I don't know what your past history has been, whether you use a city attorney or we gladly assist and help out all the time. Sometimes it's a collaborative effort between the mayor and myself and the city attorney. It just depends on how you all want to proceed and what you decide to do. It. We don't need to decide that stuff now. It's just something I'm giving you a little bit of preview down the line. That's kind of in a nutshell. Most city managers have built into their contract a 30-day notice that they've got to give notice of 30 days to start at a new position, or vacate their existing position to start a new position. But some, their governing body or community may say, 2 weeks is sufficient or 3 weeks is sufficient. There's a few that have 60-day notice requirements, but most of the time, if they have a good relationship with their governing body, then they're released early. And so those kinds of things we can work out later. I just want to give you a flavor for the process that goes on. And Gary's very experienced in all of this with his background, and we've known each other with the Kansas Association of City Managers before and met before. Any questions on process? I'm sorry to get into so much detail.
No, you're good. I've got a question. This is the first time I've been through this process. Is there any requirement on us to sign an NDA to protect their privacy, the city manager applicants?
No, I think I personally would recommend maintaining confidentiality up until the end.
And I would assume that,
Yeah.
but if it makes them feel more, is it a
No,
common
no
practice?
NDAs. Now, if you decided to have some kind of assessment panel outside the city, that beyond just some cities have their leadership team as just a informal assessment panel, or a separate, full-scale interview panel. It just depends on what you all prefer to do. But some cities have external assessment panel, and, some cities want to try to do the NDA. I'm not sure how enforceable it is for something like that. And from a legal, you'd have to talk to your city attorney. But
What I was referring to is being sure that none of us, knowing the person's name, starts calling up the city where they're from and asking.
yeah, and I think it's just, my experience has been most elected officials operate with a high sense of integrity, and, they understand that in a closed session, executive session, the topics are to maintain confidentiality, and I've never had a problem with that.
Okay.
Hundreds of interview processes. I may have had one when I was with my own firm. Now that I think back, it was a small town, and they started doing their own reference checks, and kind of exposed an entire person's interest while they were currently employed somewhere else. And the sitting council did not like it at all, and the mayor, and it was not it was a delicate situation. But that once in
Okay.
so many times, I don't sense that would be an issue. And, it's just, sometimes you have to remind people, don't leave books laying around your office or where they can be easily read, and things like that, just to be a little sensitive to the confidentiality part. But I do think if you make a commitment to maintain confidentiality to the end, then you're going to get a higher number of qualified. Doesn't mean you won't get qualified candidates, but you'll get more candidates more inclined to put their name in if they feel like they can be protected until they have to tell their mayor and governing body they're going to an interview.
That would be what we would want to
Yeah.
portray in
Yeah.
the search process.
Exactly. I think you get a higher number of better applicants if you do that. Some communities feel compelled, we got to open this up from the beginning. And some is state law. Florida, everything's wide open, and personnel files are wide open, and it is, everything. Even the psychological assessments are public information. And to me, that is problematic when you're trying to recruit really good people and to expose everything in their professional life to the public and to be printed on a local blog or newspaper. So Missouri and Kansas, I think, are very thoughtful about the states are about the laws, and allow, as I understand it, local governing bodies to maintain that confidentiality until the end with the names of the individuals. So I'm sorry, such a long answer.
It was a good answer. All right.
So any other questions on the timing? So it's a little longer, but than but I do think with the limited supply, with so many people retiring around the country and leaving work that are experienced, that we should have that little bit extra window for advertising, and by going that week after the ICMA conference is over, gives us an opportunity to better market to potential candidates, and I think it would be well worth it to try to focus on getting the highest number of best candidates possible.
Now, we're in 3 groups, so we're gonna be able to talk to them at all, or we're just gonna hear from them on paperwork, reports that we, so is there any time that we get together with the 3 groups, or that's not very good to do, or what?
Oh, I don't know that it's a bad thing. Every individual of every group kind of has their own perspective. And what I was trying to do was just put together some of the best thoughts and ideas in my notes that put together into a kind of a summary list of, and I mean, when I put together the bullet pointed list of what they think's important on those questions in that memo, I can share that with Gary, and there's nothing confidential about it. Share it with you all, what they think's, but I just think when it's helpful when it's not the personality of someone or the strong, the loud voice of a particular personality giving you an idea. It's everybody's ideas are kind of merit the same review and listed with some anonymity, without attribution, which then it's all kind of gives you a good perspective of all the different views, not just the person with the loudest voice of the group, who may talk the most.
I'm curious, as we go through this October kind of time frame and we're doing interviews, will they then be brought back in, or are they done?
That's up to you all. And Gary may have some thoughts if you wanted any input from him. But, some councils want to include an advisory panel of civic leaders to do an interview, so that council would have an interview, a panel would have an interview, and maybe even the department directors group.
I would be more comfortable with that.
And then you get input from different perspectives, and then after the interviews, they all come in and talk to you and let you know what their impressions were of the interviews. But I think sometimes the challenge is you all may have a different view of what was by far the best candidate, and then you've got 1 or 2 other groups that have either a different candidate or several different candidates, and that can be helpful to give you a different perspective, but it can also kind of tie your hands a little bit when it's your call to make, and then you've got groups that are saying, oh, we didn't like that guy at all that you all are looking at hiring. So it can kind of put you in a little bit of a bind.
Yeah, I guess ultimately though, these are the people we're going to answer to, so I'm curious what council thinks about either direction on that.
I'd almost go with the advisory panel doing some sort of interviews, and then back to the anonymous, I can't even say the word. We don't know whose opinion is whose, but we get an actual feedback instead of individuals telling us. That way no one feels like we're favoring someone's opinion over someone else's within a certain group.
Didn't we do like a form last time where they filled out, like the people that conducted the interview filled out and rated each candidate, and then we just got an aggregate of that particular group?
So you've done that before?
Yeah, we sure did.
Something along those lines I'd feel more comfortable with.
That way we just get the
And it's not
aggregate
something you
together.
need to decide tonight, but it's something you would want to decide a month out from the interviews, or a month and a half.
Yeah, totally. I just want the groups that met today to know that we are truly valuing their input, and it's not like kind of a token nod to.
Well, the only reason I say that is we're gonna talk because the citizen might say something that I like it this way, and I might want to say, what do you mean by that? I mean, you understand, someone might say something, I don't know, but something he might say, and I might need more details. Why are you thinking that? What's your reason why you think like that? That's the only reason that I say that, because.
That's a good point.
Yes. Because
And
when you
we
get
select
people,
the advisory board.
that's just my thought.
Yeah.
So, because I go to a lot of meetings, and I just had one this Saturday, and someone would say something and I stop and I said, what do you mean by that? And they explain more to what they mean by it, and then I can understand better what they're saying. And sometimes I agree with what they're saying, you know? That's the only reason I say that.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for advisory, just having one other, I think last time we did like 3 and it got a little crazy. I think just one that has all the different groups in it. And then getting the aggregate information, but I would like to be interested in how we choose the advisory board, whether it be each of us, like different groups or people can apply to be on it, and then we raffle, you know?
now, the challenge with that is sometimes you want
Yeah.
to have people you're confident will maintain confidentiality.
Yeah,
And
so
so,
that's what I'm wondering, like, how does that play into making sure that we're giving everybody kind of like an opportunity without just,
Sounds like we-
what is our method for it?
Well, I think it's probably a lot, a lot like how you chose people for the groups today.
Well,
You,
yeah, I mean, we could,
Savi,
it could be those people that participated today.
yeah,
yeah, you could take, I mean,
Or
you
do you
wouldn't,
wanna
obviously
slim it?
wouldn't want all of them, but you could take,
Could you take do like a raffle out of
a couple
those
from
people?
each group.
Yeah, but make it randomized so that it's not any particular preference. That's what I'm asking. Like, we could take the pool of the people that participated today, and out of each group, just put their names in a hat, and each one of us could, or the mayor could draw it out.
I guess
You
the
know, like,
alternative.
I want it to be somewhat fair to
Right.
everybody that participated today.
If you, I guess, just to
Yeah.
play devil's advocate.
I know.
If you've got, the school or the county that is an important
Yeah.
partner with you, and they don't get asked, they don't
Yeah.
get in the raffle
Yeah.
to participate with this group,
You
of the
split it
school
then?
superintendent or whoever you select.
Yeah.
To me, if they're an important partner, then, maybe
Do
they
you
should
have,
be
like-
representative at
And
the table.
this is a good discussion. Do you have like a set, like where we point and then like a section of people we could add in that are random? Out of that particular group that
I mean,
participated
we
today?
can create any kind of process you like.
Well, you get what I'm saying though? So you make sure that you have your community leaders in there, but then, you make sure you have the people that you want to have in there. But give a fair chance to some of the other people that participated today.
Well, I wonder why
So
we
we're
just can't
not
use
biased.
that, the people who participated today.
Is that they were concerned it was
It's a
too
lot.
big of a group?
It'd be a lot of number,
Yeah,
yeah.
high number of people.
we're trying to figure out how do we slim that down?
It's a lot of people with
With-
confidential information.
Yes, how do we slim that down
But
in a fair
I mean,
way?
in other executive searches in this town, they've had open
Yeah.
press releases, I mean, like, press conferences, so, there was no confidentiality. I'm not advocating.
Before
for
they
that.
made a selection?
Yeah, they've had like 3 candidates and then they do a,
Yeah.
press conference. And I'm not saying that's the best method to recruit.
But
Because you're not
you-
gonna get a lot of people who wanna do that.
You can
but-
correct me if we're wrong, but I think we make it too long. Some good people that are good candidates, I think we lost, if I remember right, we lost a good candidate. Because they went and took another job somewhere else because the process was too long. And they're looking for a job, so gotta be careful we don't string it out, so.
Yeah, no, I don't think it should be any longer than what we've got here.
Okay.
But I do think waiting until after that ICMA conference,
Okay.
it will help with exposure to people that aren't in the state of Kansas
Okay.
that would already know about this.
Yeah.
And, and we can talk about, when we're talking about the semifinalists, who you would want to use on those
Yeah.
panels and,
Well, I
2 or 3
definitely-
people from
I-
each group.
I definitely think that we should have an additional group interview. But what I don't want to know is who said what. And that's what you've kind of done with that group
Right,
today, and I
right.
appreciate that. I think that would be most important to me. Even, it definitely is important who's on that group, but.
What's to stop us from selecting people that we know? Just because they're a business leader doesn't mean they don't have a taste for nonprofit work or for being involved like on a school board. There are people in the community that are involved in a lot of different aspects of the community. We can find community leaders that keep the other important aspects in mind too, not just.
Right,
part
and
of the
there's
business.
a lot of professional people that I would trust, you know.
I think we're gonna have to chew on this idea a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe we can come up with some options for you to consider that are kind of taken into account what you've suggested already.
I just think we need to include people, but I think we need to be mindful on the process that we use to include people so that we make it fair.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying. I don't want to know who said what. I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to have someone that's overseeing the group dig into questions as they come up to try to elaborate more on what people's ideas
Yeah.
are. But anonymous for the five of us,
Right.
who came up with it.
We can make that work.
We went down a rabbit hole there, didn't we?
Oh, that's all right. That's what this is for. Just to have some focused dialogue on the process. So,
I wouldn't want anybody to feel like, hey, you gave your input, we got it from here. I don't want people to
Yeah.
feel that way.
well, yeah, if they don't provide if you don't know who said what, it makes it a little bit harder to give them that. Oh, you mean the initial input?
No, I think that some of these folks, or even different, I'm just trying to think this through. This is a lot all at once here,
Right.
but definitely we don't want anybody to feel like they're not being included. That, you know, or like you said, here's what we did, now we got this. I think it would be good. And I don't know what you've done in the past with, you know, who you would pick as other community leaders that really aren't.
I thought your representative group was excellent. It's
It was
about
pretty
as-
diverse. for
It was
sure.
about as,
And
it
that
was
on
about
purpose
as
for my part.
diverse as any I've ever seen. As from all aspects of the community, faith community, diversity community, you know, the business, the nonprofits. I thought it was excellent. And none of them were shy about giving their opinion.
I'm sure there were.
But yet appreciative. So we can come up with some process options if that sounds okay. And then you guys can, maybe you have another work session to talk about it before, you know, we get to that point. If that sounds okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just a couple of things. You saw we asked questions about experience, professional expertise, education, management, leadership qualities desired in candidates, high priority issues for the city over the next 18 months to 2 years. You know, what's the new city manager going to be faced with? What in their opinion were the most important community priorities? Well, obviously a lot of them came at it from the perspective of who they were representing, and you know, maybe we're not focused on public safety or you know, different aspects. But had a good cross section of ideas, and just I think a lot of excitement in wanting somebody that is collaborative, that is not, that is able to connect with all aspects of Hutch, not just the council, but also the employees, all levels.
Oh, yeah.
The community, and not just the business community, but all groups in the community that attends functions, that is active, but not to the detriment of doing their job. And so I think there was and I'm kind of paraphrasing it all together, but there was a lot of feeling that almost universal, that they felt like they wanted someone that had great communication skills, that was able to connect with the community, and there was some discussion on labor issues that, you know, having some labor experience would be helpful, but not critical. Obviously, you've got process here with your HR director and history, but you've got 4 active labor groups that, you know, it probably more than most cities in Kansas have, not all, but most. And so someone that understood and the importance of communicating and working with a high level of integrity with the labor groups would be important. There was, I think, a desire for the next city manager to be able to develop future leadership in the organization, and also that to assemble a team and recruit. It's challenging, and I understand there's some vacancies in the city, and it's hard filling a lot of them, and so it's going to take someone that's got the ability to really aggressively pursue putting together a team and building a team and create and inspire employees. And there was conversation from all groups about needing someone that was a collaborative problem solver with employees, with the council, and with the community. And that means working together with other agencies, nonprofits, governmental organizations, the economic development challenges, working together with you all to identify community priorities, and obviously not the city manager's job to identify priorities, but to help facilitate the development of strategic goals for the community with you all. And that came from all groups. That you know, I guess the last planning document that went through was back in 2017 or 2018. It's been 5-6 years ago, and it really didn't have a lot of implementation action steps in it, and according to some, and they felt like, you know, this development of some strategic goals with this council would be helpful to kind of set the vision, and then the manager would help put together an action plan to execute that strategic goal setting and business plan.
Or did you get anything unique from that group of people that you met with this afternoon that you don't hear whenever you go after, you know, was there anything that stood out that was different about our town than?
Good question. Well, actually, some of the groups, 1 or 2 of them had actually done research and found out that the International City County Management Association had a credentialed manager status, which is, and I wrote it down, it's a designation as part of ICMA. It's a voluntary credentialing program, and it requires a combination of education, experience, and adherence to high standards of integrity, and a commitment to continuous education and professional development. And I would not recommend you make it a requirement, but I do believe that would be a desired thing to have in a candidate. Very few smaller communities or communities not in metro areas, very few even promote that or even encourage that. And so I think that they brought it up, and that it's, you know, it shows a level of passion to pursuing continuous education. And I thought it was I wasn't here to recommend that, but they brought it up, and I thought, well, that's impressive that they even did the research to find it. And it's called it's a ICMA credential management designation. What's called CM, ICMA/CM is the way it looks on a resume. And they, it's something that you have to keep doing professional development and continuing education to maintain it being active. Just because someone doesn't have it isn't a bad thing. Sometimes people get out of the business for 3 or 4 years, go into the private sector, do something else, and get back in. Well, they're not going to have that
Doesn't have to be a
certification.
city manager for a certain amount of time to maintain that.
Yes.
I think you do.
Yeah, in order to apply, you have to, and I don't recall, it depends. If you have a bachelor's degree, it's bachelor's in so many years. If you have a master's, it's a master's in so many years. But I do think, I would, first of all, I think for a position like this, I would think you would want to look at it as a preferred. I let my credentials lapse, but I was a credential manager. What that means is you start off by taking an assessment. As you can imagine, cities differ from all over the state, and some of them have airports, and some of them have zoos, and some of them. So there's no one that knows everything, and so you take an assessment. It's done by the University of Georgia. It's been validated there. Then once you take that assessment, it determines which areas that you really need to work on. It could be media relations or diversity or whatever. There's 18 different things that staff effectiveness and all kinds of different things. And so what you do from there, see, under ICMA, one of the tenets in our code of ethics is that you do ongoing professional training. You have to have at least 40 hours per year. If you're not a credential manager, then you can do any kind of training as long as it's related to city management. But if you're a credential manager, then you're supposed to focus on those areas that you are the weakest. And you have to put together a plan, what you're going to do. The credentialing group committee reviews that plan every year, and they approve the plan. Then you have to follow through by taking certain courses throughout the year. So you can't just take anything you want. You have to focus on those areas where you're weak. Now, you can take more than that, but you at least have to have a certain number of hours in those key areas. Then every 5 years, then you do what's called a 360 evaluation. You would get, do evaluation that you would get maybe 3 council members, 3 staff members, 3 people in the public, whatever it might be. And those people give you an evaluation, and based on that, then that sets the focus for the next 5 years. So it's a continual improvement. It's really a pretty good process to go through.
And there are some assistant city managers, deputy city managers, they can get credentialed also. But usually they've been in the position for a while, the assistants or deputies.
Yeah, because I think it's like 7 years and a bachelor's and 5 and a master's degree or something like that.
And there was some dialogue from multiple groups about the importance of number one, being sensitive to the culture of both the organization and the community, and also being sensitive to issues of diversity, and that that's an area that I think you want to make sure you've got people that are well-versed and understand the issues related to diversity and inclusion, and because it's important to have your staff be representative of the community, the makeup of your staff, and be sensitive to you deal with a lot of constituents, and whether you have a lot of people visiting the community, whether it's for all your special events, an amazing number of national tournaments and golfing events and everything. I mean, you've got a lot going on here. And so I think there was a recommendation to, in some of the pre-evaluation, to just make sure there's an understanding to the importance of diversity. And let's see, had some of the basic things that I think, sense of urgency and a willingness, a desire to have someone use best practices and the focus on continuous improvement by let's say the development review staff or the other functional areas of the city organization to be entrepreneurial, to be innovative in approach, and I think to be collaborative, not just external to the organization, but utilizing the strengths of the management team and the leadership team, and allowing input from employees and ideas to generate from employees, and encouraging that, and showing appreciation for employees. I think that was not just from the department directors, that was from several other groups as well. And so I think everybody, there was a lot of really great ideas, and don't want to spend too long going through all of these.
I have another question on the process. Well, I would imagine it would be a good idea on our part as city council to be prepared on what expectations are for year one, what expectations might be, or a goal for year two, because we're probably going to be asked by candidates toward the end a lot of questions. They're going to be interviewing us if
Exactly.
they're worth their medal, right? So I think we need to kind of prepare ourselves a little bit. Is there anything in the process for that?
No, but that's a good idea, and we can give you some ideas for questions to think about that you may be asked by candidates through the interview process, and that you may want to have a collective, unified answer, or you may want to have, obviously you all have your own opinions on those things.
If I was sitting in someone's shoes and going through this process, which is pretty substantial, when it's my turn to ask questions, I would want to make sure I'm getting very clear answers on what's expected from me. Year one, possible year two with some small changes, but I'd want clarity before I even would want to move forward with that group.
Sure.
Or get excited about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I would, if I were you all, put out the welcome ad for these folks that you decide to bring in. People like to feel like they're being recruited, and some cities take the approach that, hey, we're great. If they want to come here, great. If not, they're lost. I tend to think, someone mentioned a number of times today in one of the sessions that we are a city here that is welcoming. One thing about Hutch is we welcome everyone. We always have, and they brought it up like 3 or 4 times. I said, well, I'm going to try to include that welcoming statement because, she was passionate about it. And what I would suggest is we can go through and talk about what you all think's important and what you think the priorities are going to be from your perspective, and then I'll have a list of what everybody else has put together that can be shared with you. And if there's any of these that are non-starters for you all, then you can let Gary know to let me know, or just let me know directly. That way we can get started on the brochure, because we got to get this thing cranked out in the next couple of weeks, and get started on the profile and the brochure. And if I can get some ideas and thoughts from you all tonight, then that will help me begin to formulate it. And then, if you have any concerns with some of the other ideas that I'll put together and share with you, then you can let me know. Otherwise, we'll start to integrate it into a final draft document that we'll bring back to you, and Gary will share it with you to tweak it, review it for accuracy. If there's anything that needs to be modified or changed, then you can do that. And then we'll get it in final form with your logo and beautiful pictures and all that kind of thing.
Did you get my email with my thoughts? I sent
Just
that
now?
Yesterday. No, I sent it yesterday.
So, yeah, I'm curious on that, like,
I didn't see that, sorry.
the questionnaire you sent us, is that kind of what you're wanting from us?
And that was more of a conversation starter, but that was kind of a guide, and what we used as a guide during discussions today of, your thoughts on what we went through, or the management leadership qualities that you think are important, that what priorities for the community or organization is the manager going to have to deal with in the first 18 months to 2 years.
Are we gonna get those answers from that group today?
No, I have them in unlegible written notes.
Yeah, are you gonna put that into an email so that we can?
Not tonight, maybe in the day tomorrow or
Yeah.
Wednesday morning.
I sent you a document that
I'm
gives
sorry, I
all my
missed
thoughts.
it.
That's okay. No, I didn't expect you to have it all.
I came in
But
from
I
out
want
of
to
town
make
late
sure
last
you
night.
got it.
And then I left at 5:30 to get here, so,
Yeah.
or about 6 actually.
Yeah, so if we all get those thoughts to you in that questionnaire.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can kind of, collate it with the additional feedback, and then you would just, is the idea that you would send us kind of a draft of the
Mhm.
flyer or whatever?
Marketing brochure
Yeah,
and profile,
yeah.
which kind of describes what you're looking for in a candidate.
Okay.
I mean, in that way, we wouldn't have to go through verbally tonight if you filled the questionnaire out and sent it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
But we can do that if you want
I mean,
to.
yeah, either way, whatever.
I'd rather
council-
fill out,
I'd
I'd rather,
rather fill it out and
Send it to
email
you.
it to you.
That'd be great.
And
That
I'd
way-
wanna get an email summary of those comments as well. You
Well, I
just
don't know that I'm going to be able to get it to you within a day and a half, maybe Wednesday morning.
Oh, my word.
Is that
no,
okay?
We have plenty, I mean,
Yeah,
plenty of time.
yeah.
It's like a
Like-
3 month, 2.5 month.
Yeah.
process. We're good.
I'm not saying today, but I would like it, only because, you know, that, I mean,
Yeah, what a finger on the pulse of the community.
Yeah.
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 so.
Well, and it's a good list, it really, and some of them they're duplicate, each of the groups kind of duplicated themselves in
So
some.
that's why I asked the question, because we all want a good listener. We want a good leader.
Yeah,
You know,
now, and we
want
got
all
lots
those
of that.
What a good collaborator.
Yeah, you know.
That's why I hate to read through all these, because
That's
you're going to
why
hear
I
the
asked
same
you,
thing over and
What
over.
was different? What did you hear different?
No, that was a good question.
Yeah,
The welcoming thing that stuck in my mind, that Hutch is known for being a very welcoming community. At least that was
Yeah.
the impression I got.
That's
You tell me,
great.
you're,
No, that's
you're the
great.
elected
That's what
leader,
we
so.
like to believe so, but. So what else do you need from us, Arvis, besides that?
I think that if, generally the schedule looks okay, that,
Yeah, I mean.
we
it's
can
drawn
tweak the
out,
meeting
but
days.
Gary's on board, so we're gonna
Well, we assume he is until November, December
eke
time.
everything out of him that we can.
Well, I will tell you, I'm gone the week of the 7th, or at least part of that week.
Yeah, well, then
Wednesday.
we work around.
Yeah.
The whole
But I think
council
I'm
needs to
only
be
here
here.
Monday.
Yeah, Greg, I think it's very important that every council member be available.
Oh, for sure.
For the
And I
interview, so
can-
we can work around
I
people's schedules.
Yeah.
Probably adjust or cancel that trip, but
Well, if your best
Don't
candidate,
cancel your trip.
if your best,
picking up trips.
or if your best candidate has a wedding or something, they're gonna be
Yeah.
gone.
Oh, no, I know this is.
You don't wanna just say, oh, it's too bad, you missed out, because there just aren't that many. You wanna keep every candidate in the
Yeah, for
mix.
sure.
And I think we've all talked about dragging this out so that you're.
Yeah.
He's hoping for you to
Nobody
retire
likes
by
you,
next
Gary.
We're trying to convince Gary to just stay a few years.
That's what the groups today were saying.
He's excited about another retirement party by next year.
Hey, you guys are kind. It's been great working here. It really has.
Well, that's the reason why you need to stay.
Oh, goodness.
County's gonna be mad that you guys took him.
Yeah, pretty much.
When did you retire?
January 2020.
Oh, it's been a
That
couple
was
years now.
good timing.
It's been a couple of
Right?
years, and you missed all the,
All the fun.
all the fun.
Yeah,
Perfect timing. It's like you knew.
yeah. It was one of those things that, I retired, I thought I was gonna travel, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, I did the same. I sold my house in November 2019. I'm like, we're gonna travel. Yeah, not so much.
Funny. Well, not funny at the time.
Yeah.
Well, if that looks okay,
Yes.
we'll, we heard you loud and clear on the process options.
Yes.
For interview, and then also the notes we'll share with you,
And yeah, we'll get that information to you
Yep.
for incorporation into the brochure.
Do you have any thoughts that you want from us?
It's really
or-
quiet.
Yeah, I'm just listening. Eerie, it's eerie talk.
What date do you want the questionnaire back from us by?
Oh,
Like by Monday, like beginning of next week, or this Friday, so you have the weekend to work on it?
Friday, end of day Friday. would be
End of day
great.
Friday.
Or over the weekend.
I do better when I'm told.
End of the day
Yes.
Friday.
Give us the deadline.
Yes. I'm sorry. End of day Friday, if that's
End of day
okay.
Friday,
Is that enough time?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
fine.
you.
And then, but we'll have for sure that done to share with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Now, you don't have any, is this the only business tonight?
Yeah.
Because your meetings are Tuesday morning.
Tomorrow,
Yeah,
right?
Tomorrow morning, yeah. Easy like Sunday morning.
We'll see you there. See you there at 9 o'clock.
We have a meeting tomorrow?
Do you want me to be there? Because I'm staying over tonight.
Oh, really?
I'm getting too old to try to drive back later.
So are you from the Casey area?
At least I'm on the southeast side of Kansas City.
Okay.
And
You're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I hope, right?
I am.
Yeah, you are?
I am,
You're a good man, all right.
very much so.
VCR.
And Royals, but they're just not.
It's a little harder.
So so I guess you probably have a few Broncos fans here, right?
Nope.
No Kansas
No.
City Chiefs.
That's one of the questions I
Are
want
we
to
all Jeopardy tomorrow?
One of the questions I was
That's a screening question.
One question I want the city manager, you gotta be a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
It's not even Kansas, Steve, it's Missouri.
It's the closest one.
What's your
yeah.
football team?
Well,
I can't hear you, what'd you say?
I said I'm a yoga instructor. I
said it
don't
really
love
quiet.
football. All the traumatic brain injuries.
What about you, John?
Huh?
What's your team?
I have never been to a Chiefs game, and I've been to about 20 Carolina Panthers games.
Oh.
So you're
Wow.
a Panthers fan?
It was fun to watch. I was Luke Kuechly and
Yeah.
so Cam Newton got all crazy and stuff. It was cheating. Going to games for free because they were so bad for so long.
Well,
That's like my husband's team. My husband's Washington. I guess Washington football team now. It's his,
Well, did they change their name yet?
oh yeah, they're like
They're Guardians?
Commanders.
No.
Commanders, right?
That's the Cleveland.
They're
Is it
Washington Commanders.
Commanders, that's it.
Yes, that's his.
Because the Cleveland team
Yeah.
changed it to Guardians.
Yes, they're the Washington Commanders. That's my husband's football team, and I was making fun of them.
I know, Tom,
Maybe another 20 years.
did you remember when we